I want to
Yeah.
ask you your stance on what's going on with China. Right now, the Chinese government is appears to be cracking down in a very big way in what to me looks to be an effort to take billionaires in the country and a lot of the major corporations and bring them closer to the state. Jack Ma went out and started running around and running his mouth too much a couple years ago, and Xi Jinping said, it's time to rope all this in. And all of these companies were coming and listing in the U.S., many of which were defrauding U.S. investors, which I don't think necessarily bothered China. But it became a little bit of a free-for-all. And I think Xi Jinping woke up one morning and realized a lot of these companies and entrepreneurs were getting too big to kind of rope in. And so we've had this giant crackdown from China. They announced they're gonna open their own stock exchange in Beijing also. I wanted to get your take. Have you been following that story or no?
Yeah, I'm following it at a very superficial level. Your level of knowledge of it is certainly exceeds mine. China's a mess, right? It's a situation where you've got this command control communist society, but they're trying to run capitalism, and the two are rubbing up against each other, and it's no surprise that eventually this would happen. I mean, they've got a fatal flaw in the structure there, right? So I agree with everything you say, but I'm not heads down looking through the weeds. I was at a conference up in Bretton Woods, a monetary conference where a lot of smart macro guys were there. And a comment they all made that I thought was fascinating was that Taiwan is in a lot of trouble. That they could all see that they thought within between 2 and 5 years China would move on Taiwan. We wouldn't have the guts to protect them, and that things like TMSC has announced they're building a fab facility in Arizona, and that's why they compared it to getting the family. You move the family silver before you know you're going to get invaded.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, and I also find it interesting that it parallels this. I know you're not a huge Bitcoin fan, but it parallels the throwing the Bitcoin miners out of China as well. I mean, Bitcoin just doesn't work with China, right? They just can't have that shit going on, and they've obviously made the gold bet. They've been buying a lot more gold than they've reported, because everyone in Switzerland can tell you the numbers. And so, it strikes me that if in the currency realignment that's likely to occur, China wants to bet on gold, which is why, arguably, there's some pretty smart macro guys, including guys who are connected to folks in the Pentagon who believe that, the way for the U.S. to counter that would be for the U.S. to go to a Bitcoin neutral reserve currency standard versus a gold, reserve
Well,
currency standard.
do you think that the U.S. would stand idly by if China moved on Taiwan?
God, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a military or geopolitical guy, and I try to avoid. I mean, look, I'm simple, right? I'm deeply burrowed in on sound money. I can talk sound money until the cows come home, every angle on it, all the history, all that stuff. When I get away from that stuff, I get in trouble. I mean, I got criticized, Trump's kid with some comment on the web, on Twitter the other day, and I just got totally flamed by all these Trump supporters. And so I hate all politicians. I try to avoid them all, and I'm not really a great macro thinker in terms of China. But it obviously is going to come to play in the sound money world, and they've got a problem. I mean, they've had the same kind of credit bubble forming there that we've got forming here.
Right.
And they must be sitting there thinking to themselves, shit, how the hell do we manage this? I mean, if this thing collapses, we're going to have a lot of unhappy people. So, but they're doing the social credit score stuff. I mean, it's bad. It's really bad. But I mean, I'm sure you focused in on this. Have you followed carefully what's going on in Australia?
Oh
I
my
mean,
God, I do,
right?
I do want to talk about that, but I don't want to get off China.
Okay, yeah. You want to stay on China?
I think that what's going on in Australia is absolutely batshit insane, and
Right.
I did want to talk about that.
Yep.
I wanted to, though, query you quickly about whether or not you know about this rumor that China is hoarding way more gold than it is letting on. And
that I strongly believe to be true. And Ronan Manley, and I mean, I follow the gold stuff like a hawk, right? And there's enormous evidence that China has a lot more gold than they reported. I mean, they could have, we allegedly have 8,000 tons, actually 8,300 tons in Fort Knox. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that they have between 15 and 25,000 tons. And you can see it through the Swiss export numbers. I mean, for the last 15 years, all the gold has been flowing out of other places in the world into Switzerland where it gets refined. And the Chinese, what they like is they like these kilo bars, so they remelt it, and they like it 4.9s. A lot of the gold in the world is less than 4.9s purity, and so they refine it in Switzerland down to the 4.9s, and off it goes to China. And those are almost publicly available numbers, and in many cases, some of it is publicly available, some's not. And so it's either in the government or in the people, or both. I mean, there was a time, if you recall, back in like the early 2000s, 3, 4, 5. I mean, the government was actually pushing people to buy gold. I mean, they were pushing their citizens to buy gold. I mean, they realized that it was strategically important. They wanted to have a wealthy populace, and I've long contended that they can see the end game. They think much more strategically and long term than we do. There's a lot of, Luke Rome and others have brought out all the evidence that there's a lot of evidence that they understand that we screwed up in '71. I mean, they know it, and they've been planning for it. So, but as to answer your question on Taiwan, I just don't know. I take the other side of those guys. Those macro guys say, "Oh, it's gone in 2 to 5 years." I don't know. I mean, look, we're both nuclear armed. It's a hot spot. We're supposed to defend them. Japan is right there too. I'm not sure. I'm not sure the wars are, going forward, wars are going to be fought in a kinetic sense. I mean, I think that a lot of people are thinking that they're kind of winning, and there aren't even shots being fired. And so why not just let, if I were them, I might just kind of keep winning as long as we keep doing stupid shit. They're going to get ahead of us, right?
What is China's like official disclosed gold holdings? Do you know?
I haven't looked recently. I remember it was a couple thousand ounces. There was a time a few years ago it was like
a couple thousand tons. You mean?
Or, I'm sorry, a couple thousand tons. That's what I meant. Yeah, like it used to be 1,500 tons. You can go look it up on the web. I just haven't looked recently.
So
it's creeped up to maybe 2,000, maybe 3,000. I don't know, something like that. Small compared to us.
This guy Nick Laird at Gold Charts.
He's good too. Yeah, he's got great data.
His analysis said that their gold held in China could be around 28,911 tons, which is 15 or 20 times what they are supposed to be holding. And I mean, if that's true, something is going on behind the scenes, right?
It would not surprise me. I mean, obviously it's opaque, so none of us know, but it's clearly way bigger than the 19, that you talked about, 1900, and it's got to be 10 or more, and it could be 28. I mean, it's a big number, and I think you're very smart to be focusing in on the digital yuan being backed by gold. I mean, I do think that's probably where they're going. I mean, I think all these control guys, all these evil governments are going to try and force us into CBDCs, central bank controlled digital currencies, which is just Orwellian. I mean, if they could see every single transaction, they could put taxes on you. I mean, it's horrible. And, anyone thinks that that's going to beat out Bitcoin. I mean, the people who buy Bitcoin, there's no way they're going to buy a CBDC unless they're forced to, which, that's a different matter, right? I mean, well, one of the problems here is that, China, there are capital controls in China, right? You can't get money in and out. So, if they're gonna make a play, I mean, doing that would imply that they're saying to themselves, okay, we want to be the world's reserve currency, right? Screw the dollar, we're gonna be the world's reserve currency. Well, okay, but it's hard to be the world's reserve currency when you have the political regime that they've got. It's also hard when you've got kind of the unopened markets and the unopened capital flows that they've got. I mean, part of what makes the dollar the reserve currency is it's damn liquid and the market is really deep. And so, it could be a sound form of money because, whatever the units are, it's backed by gold. And of course, that would have to be tested. It'd have to be exchangeable for gold, by the way. I mean, I think we're in a world where, just saying something is backed by something, that's no good. I mean, you got to actually be able to go in and say, okay, here, I'm going to transfer my CBDC to you right now, and I want you to give me a gold coin. Because as you know, and as we talked about in the past, I mean, there's just so much paper gold out there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why gold has essentially kind of failed, and I hate to say that because I love gold, but I mean, look at what's going on. Look at how fucking crazy it is that the amount of money that's been printed. I mean, we got 25% of all the money ever printed in the last 20 months. I mean, It's nuts, and gold's not even at an all-time high. It's like, what the fuck is that all about? I mean, it's absolutely crazy. Gold should be at 5,000.
Yeah, it's baffling, isn't it?
It's totally baffling, and here we are struggling to get through 2,000. Well. Okay, I mean, so, logical minds, I mean, you got to just go to first principles. It's because they've created paper gold. I mean, everyone saw it that Sunday night in August.
And Bitcoin is probably taking some of that.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Some of that money as well, right?
There's no doubt. I mean, it's like Luke Grumman said. I mean, Bitcoin's the fire alarm that hasn't been suppressed. I mean, all the monetary fire alarms like gold and others, they've been suppressed, but Bitcoin hasn't yet. I mean, they're going to try to, but the problem they've got there is that everything settles back to the chain, which is part of the advantage of Bitcoin. It's distributed, that it's not centralized. I mean, gold is centralized. It's in central banks. It's in banks. It's in depositories. And guess what? Human beings can lie. I mean, an open ledger that everybody can see. You can't really lie about that. I mean, it's just there. So this paper gold has really caused us all enormous pain, and yet it's in the process of blowing up. And that's why, even if you hate Bitcoin, and there are reasons, I get why some people hate it, because the attitude of some people promoting it. But even if you hate it, you got to root for it to help overthrow fiat. I'm giving a speech. I'm going to the New Orleans Gold Show in October, and I'm in the process of writing my speech for it. And it's really just a sound money rallying cry that says, we have got to destroy, this fiat system, or else, we're going to destroy ourselves and the world. I mean, the Keynesian notion that you have to grow, that you have to have bigger growth forever, or else, the economy stinks.
It's just insane.
It's just stupid. Yeah, it's insane, because we're in a world with limited resources. So unlimited growth and limited resources. I mean, you're going to be the the deer on the island in Alaska where they die. They all die. You eventually get to a point where you overload the capacity of the island to serve you, and you die. So I mean, what we need is efficiency. We need to have an efficient system where we get the most good for the least effort. And that's what we should be rewarding. And that, by the way, that actually implies deflation. But deflation, of course, according to Bernanke, deflation is what, made the Depression so bad, not the fact that they blew the biggest bubble in the world, before it. And therefore, if we have deflation, we all die, but they can always fight it by printing money, which they're doing.
Before we continue, help us clicking that YouTube like button and subscribe now to our channel. This shows the algorithm that you valued this information. And it helps us spread that message. Sharing is caring. And now, let's continue.
What to do in such a situation? Inform yourself and keep your financial education strong. We from the Compact Group offer our loyal subscribers a free educational portal with first-hand monetary, financial, and economic knowledge. Enter our invite-only Insider Club by clicking the link below. You will get access to first-class information far earlier than the rest. We have prepared a special deal for all our members, where you can access a giant pool of Robert Kiyosaki's financial wisdom for just $1. To find out more, simply click the link below and join our Insider Club, absolutely free. But there is more you can and should do. Build up several streams of income. More and more people realize that they have to take their future in their own hands, but they don't know how and where to start. We from Compact offer our Insider Club members unique opportunities. Strengthen your financial muscle and get the edge. Click the link below. Become part of our free Insider Club. No financial obligations. But there's one important thing you have to know. You have to become active. So do it now. Become active and see you on the other side.